Ladies and gentlemen, Season 5, episode... I have no idea. Which episode is this? 14, Canterlot Boutique. This is the episode in which Rarity successfully manages to set up a boutique amongst the upper rich elite of Canterlot, and it's very successful. In fact, it's a little bit too successful. Baron was saying this in chat. In fact, you can see it on the log over there. But I just gotta say, if there was any one of the main six that I would be, it would be Rarity. This is not the first time I've said this. While I can understand and appreciate Twilight in many ways, and I could get Pinkie Pie's mentality, and Fluttershy's, and Applejacks, and, you know, Rainbow Dash's, no, Rarity is the one that I am probably most akin to. I don't say that in a bad thing, of course. I just think it's interesting. Moving on. Pinkie continues her trend of saying things that make perfect sense. It's just you usually lack the context. I only mention that because it's a regular trait of hers, and I'm going to start pointing it out every time she does it. She walks up and says, "Strawberry cinnamon cilantro greetings," or something to that effect. Now what the heck does that mean? Well, it makes perfect sense because she decided to experiment with her cooking. This is going to sound like a weird thing, but I am completely with Pinkie on that. I want to explain why. Salutations, that's what she said. I was going to say, it feels like it should rhyme. Strawberry, cilantro, cinnamon, salutations. There we go. But that's not rhyming, that's alliteration, but whatever. I like to experiment with cooking. You guys saw a little bit of that when I was still doing the hors d'oeuvres. I just like to make things and think about what combinations might work well with other combinations. But every now and again I just try something. Just because I want to try something. Yeah, the blue fudge. You remember. I'm actually surprised you remember. Yeah, I just like to try making new things. Recently I tried something that's probably not all that out there, but I was curious because what I did was I put a little bit of honey and garlic in eggs while they were still runny, and then baked it like that to see what the resulted thing was. Consequently, the honey garlic eggs turned out really well. I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to try that. I just like to try things. So yeah, her Rarity, excuse me, Pinkie's idea of just trying things out makes perfect sense. And it's also the theme of the episode. That's brilliant. I'll give you that one, Miss Rogers. You caught that, right? Her desire to make a cupcake that will probably fail is absolutely the theme of the episode. After all, trying things creatively usually fails. That's the norm. But we'll get back to that later. So let's see here. Rainbow Dash has achieved her ambition. Well, actually, no, she hasn't. She will continue to achieve her ambition in this very season. In fact, I think next week we'll be talking about that. Well, we'll talk about that later, Baron. So, Rainbow Dash is on the way to achieving her ambition. Fluttershy is actually still working towards her ambition, and that will be fulfilled in a future episode as well. Pinkie Pie and Applejack don't really have ambitions to speak of, and frankly, neither does Twilight. We've actually talked about this before, how really there's only 3 ponies who have any kind of ambition, and now we see Rarity is moving forward with hers. She's also arguably the most successful of the 6. Because, well, we'll get into that later, but now yeah, AJ technically already achieved her ambition before the show even started. That's a fair point. Anyways, so Rarity is now moving another step forward. She's opening up a second boutique. Now, what's interesting about this is the episode doesn't make this clear early on, so this is kind of me jumping ahead. Please forgive me. But the idea is that she is opening a second boutique, not moving her boutique. If you pay attention to the episode proper, and I can't believe I never really noticed this before, the episode makes it sound like she is simply moving shop to Canterlot. What's the second one, Imperial Star Destroyer? Ah, Manhattan. I actually forgot about that one. You're right. Huh. I did actually forget about that one. That's very strange. No, I'm pretty sure that has already happened. Wait, no, it hasn't happened yet, has it? It hasn't happened yet. That's in a future episode. That's where everything goes wrong, and they're all talking about it to the newspaper, right? Yeah, so, okay, you're really throwing me here, Imperial Star Destroyer. So, I was about to say that's very confusing, because the episode is slanted as if this is her moving to Canterlot. And if this is her third boutique, that's weird. That would almost be a counter-continuity counter. Like, yeah, no, I'm abandoning my Ponyville thing, even though I already have the Manhattan branch, in order to go to Canterlot. That's strange. But no, this makes perfect sense. Because now it's slanted as if she is going to move to Canterlot, and this is her second one. Okay, that makes way more sense. And it's much more in keeping with how they presented it. It is not until the very end of the episode that they reveal that this is intended to be a franchise. That this is intended to be an expansion, not a relocation. Which is kind of awesome, but I'm getting off topic here. So, Sassy Saddles shows up. Two things I like about her immediately. First of all, her voice actress, because we all know that, you know, Starlight Glimmer's amazing. And second of all, it is her voice actress. She does a good job. I'm not memeing. She's a good actress. Sorry. Second thing, though, I like the visual design. Now, we've actually seen the skinny pony before. I don't know what the proper term is for that. But it's a cool look, and it does help to vary up the typical model, so I'm with that. Also, I have a commenter on my YouTube comments whose name is Sassy Saddles, so I'm reminded of this character constantly. Go figure, because that person is a regular commenter. Anyways. Once again, we see some good early foreshadowing. She mentions, don't worry, the Canterlot boutique will never, ever, ever close! And then she looks nervous. Now, they never actually state outright in this episode, you know, her past and how many failed boutiques she's been through. But she does make it very clear that that is her primary motivation here, that she is so afraid of failure that she is doing what every single stockholder and major corporation has been doing for decades when it comes to every industry ever. Playing it safe. Because playing it safe is guaranteed to have some return on investment. I'll talk more about that later. I just wanted to bring that up because that is exactly where she is. And I wanted to point this out too, as much as I tend to be against that mentality, and I absolutely am, it is worth noting that not everyone who has that mentality is stupid, evil, or both. Sometimes they're just afraid. Sometimes they just want to have their little nest egg. Sometimes they've already been through failures, which is exactly what happens here with Sassy. Sometimes they've already been through failures and they don't want to go through that again. You ever have a failed business before? Now, thankfully, I haven't yet. I don't have any. There's no wood around here. Whatever. Moving on. Yeah, not yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. And then the knife comes out. Oh, wait, I've got a knife right here. Perfect! I can kill myself. All right, so notice how they talk about TLC, tender loving care. First of all, lol. Second of all, time, love, and couture. That's a funny one. I do like Saddle's marketing approach, and I mean that sincerely, but hear me out for a second here. You put a celebrity in an outfit and that helps to sell it. We literally just talked about this today. I was talking about Star Trek V in the Star Trek Rewrite Project. For those of you who are watching this in the VOD or don't watch those, I'm just going to very briefly repeat myself. I was pointing out how one of the big themes I have for the Star Trek V rewrite is the power of stories, because of how much emphasis we put on individuals, even when it's like 50 or 500 people who have actually made a work, we tend to point to the director, right? Or the main actor, or whatever, right? Same concept. I mean, for God's sakes. She mentions flat out that Twilight is the most popular princess, and can't you just picture that? How many times have we argued in real life, which is your favorite Star Trek? And how much were those arguments different back when those Treks were new? When TNG was coming out? When DS9 was coming out? And so forth. Hell, people are still arguing about that now. Because there's still Star Trek coming out right now. See you around, SJ. I don't know why I'm still playing this. This is a very dull blade. This is not going to do anything. This is my box opening knife. This would need to be sharpened very much so to be actually a cutter. Anyways, I have cooking knives if I need to actually cut something. So, Sassy is of course like, hey, you know, Twilight is very popular because, you know, she's recent and relevant, and I do think it was done well, Sevicom. And we're going to put her in a dress, and that's going to help sell that dress. All of that is very logical. That's good marketing, legitimately. It is using the circumstances and using people's psychology properly with that. Then, well, let's move forward a little bit, because Sassy upstages her. Welcome to the Canterlot Boutique, yay! And Rarity's face says everything. She's just like, now, is it a big deal being upstaged in your big moment? Not really. But also, yes. Now, this is one of the ones that's going to vary based on individuals, I think, because not everyone really cares about being the spotlight. I do. I want to be on the spotlight. I know, shocking, considering I talk on the internet for a living. But I am the kind of person who wants to be center stage. I really am. If someone did that to me, I would be having some words with them. Because, as Sean and Lord Harrowmont both pointed out before I got there, it is rude, and it is a red flag. It is an indicative. And it's like, hold on a second. Yeah, but Rarity loves the spotlight, is my point, S.A. Ross. Right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But what I do know is that AJ and Rainbow are in sync, as usual. And Sassy is like, ooh, and she does some good marketing stuff, too. She grabs the dresses and floats them around. Presentation. Presentation matters. And I hate to gush about this for like the 4th time on this show, but I really like the dresses. They are very well designed. The one I liked most, I decided rather than going through and talking about every single one of those dresses, because I am a bit of a fashion geek and I don't get to talk about fashion all that often in my life. But the only dress I'm going to talk about is the Over the Moon dress, which is the one the goth pony at the end purchases. The one that was inspired by being put to sleep by Luna, because it's a wonderful gradient combination of cool colors. In this case, shades of very, very deep blue along with light violet. And it uses specific points of white in order to pull contrast into it and draw attention to certain patterns and lines, and it's very well designed. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Moonlight Raven is apparently her name. I didn't see it in the episode, and so I didn't write it down. Forgive me. I called her Goth and her sister Bright, but I'll get to that in a minute. I guess I can talk about it now. Apparently, Bright Pony and Goth Pony are sisters, and that's, you know, where that's coming from. Haha. Anyways. Also, Goth Sister is voiced by the same actress who voices Pinkie Pie. So, the Rain and Stain. Now, this is where I feel Sassy's marketing kind of falls apart a little bit. Just a little bit. That's okay. You know, it's fine to have like 8/10 right. That's still a very good score. But she insists that the Rain and Stain is a terrible name, and instead she goes for the princess dress. Now, why do I say this is bad marketing? Now, of course, this is my opinion because, well, as this very episode shows, marketing isn't a linear thing. If you're going to use a particular type of marketing, you're going to appeal to a particular type of person. And what she does is she does the hammer the point in marketing. This is the princess dress. The princess dress is princessy with princess, princess, princess. We've actually already seen this. Pinkie Pie did this back in Traja. You remember that? It is emphasizing the same point over and over to the point where that is the selling point. I'm sure some of you have seen that type of marketing in real life, where a specific movie is mentioned, and the only thing they say about it is starring such and such, or from the makers of such and such. Or how many times have you seen a video game where the big selling point is one specific gimmick in that game, which may or may not be a good gimmick, and may or may not be well prolific, but by God, it's got that gimmick, right? That's that type of marketing. Hammer that point right there, just bam, 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 and hammer it over and over. That's what she does. Now, I point out that that's not necessarily good or bad. What I point out is that I think that is a mistake given what she's specifically going for here. No Man's Sky and the Never Planet. That's a good example of that. I was trying to think of specific examples, and I couldn't think of any off the top of my head. Although, actually, I could think of one. You remember Oblivion? Elder Scrolls 4? Some of you may or may not remember that Oblivion was marketed to hell and back about the Radiant AI thing. The people's schedules and the fact that people can interact with each other. And the big scene where, oh my god, they did something unexpected. You remember that? That was massively marketed back when Oblivion was coming out. Anyways, so she hammers that point in. Frankly, I think the Rain and Stain would have worked a little bit better there. It's very clever. It's also very memorable. Rain and Stain is easy to remember. And the fact that you have to explain... Oh yeah, that's another good one. Oh god, Dragon Age Origins adverts. You remember those? Blood. But the Rain and Stain... first of all, it's shown that she's wrong about the renaming thing for two reasons. One, again, it's very easy to remember, even if you have to explain it a little bit. But two, the guy picks up on it immediately. The local tabloid dude instantly understands what it means. Doesn't even have to have it explained to him. Now, not everyone's going to get it, but that's okay because it's still a memorable thing, right? Even if you don't understand the slogan being memorable is important. I'm only pointing all this out because it's the first crack in Sassy's overall approach. So, look at my notes. Kelly Sheridan is awesome, is where I wrote that down in my notes. So Rarity runs into... God, it's such a common problem. So, you're a creative type. I actually don't know how many of you in chat are creative types. I am. I love creating. I love writing. I love editing. I love directing. I love making movies and books and games and everything. I want to do all of it. I'm never going to. Never going to get to be creative in my life. But I love being creative, and I know several other people who are creative types. I mean, I suck at it, S.A. Ross, but I love doing it. Rarity is absolutely a creative type. She loves to make and design, and sometimes whims or fancy takes her, and she just runs with it. This has been true the whole show. She runs into a problem that I'll actually be talking about more later. Creativity versus production. Pick one. Yeah, the assembly line. This is true in the overwhelming majority of industries, really. Fashion, food, restaurants. How about architecture? Car design? I mean, you get the idea. This is a very, 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 very common problem, and most people run into this problem. And of course, I mean, this is just kind of how it works, isn't it? People want what they want, and the only way they know they want something is if they already know they want it. You don't know you want something new, right? If you try something new and then you like it, then great. But you don't want it because you didn't know you want it because it's something new. I know this sounds duh, so please forgive me for explaining this, but this is one of the reasons why playing it safe exists in all industries, is because playing it safe by definition is going with what's already known and is already liked. Now, there are other flaws with the playing it safe thing, which I don't want to get into right now. Point remains. You focus group something, and they're going to tell you stuff they already know they like, not things they might like that they haven't understood yet. And if this is still not making sense, allow me to ask you a very simple question. Has there ever been a point in your life when you've run into something that you had no knowledge of before, and you're like, oh, this is great, and it was just all of a sudden it clicked with you in a way that you wouldn't have predicted because you never really knew that you were wanting that before. You never knew how much you enjoyed strategy games. You never knew how much you enjoyed collecting cards. You never knew how much you enjoyed racing or boxing or anything. It never even occurred to you before because you weren't exposed to it. But then when you were, it was like, oh, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with playing it safe. It is worth noting. I don't think we should get rid of playing it safe. I'm just pointing out that both sides have their own purpose and opinion, and this is why these two are usually in competition with each other. So then she sings. You'll notice she enjoys just being creative in that, and all she's doing is remixing the dress. It's the same dress. It's just she decided to add a few gems that she felt added to it. She just had the urge, she remixed it, and now she's made something more interesting, at least to her. I point that out because that's not necessarily it shows how creativity doesn't have to be cinnamon, what was it? Cinnamon, cilantro, strawberry cupcakes. Creativity doesn't have to be some ridiculous out there thing. It could just be, you know what, maybe I should add a little bit of honey to my eggs instead. And yes, I like to tie things in. Naturally, the customer doesn't want that, which is interesting because that makes perfect sense. The customer doesn't want a Whopper. The customer ordered a Big Mac. And so the customer wants a Big Mac. That's what they ordered. Who's wrong there? You see why this is an interesting little paradox, don't you? You can already see the point you've probably already deduced that I'm building up to. I mean, who's in the wrong here? The customer for wanting what they ordered, even if it's the same thing as everything else, or the creator who wants to try and stretch and express themselves? The answer is, of course, neither. This is just how things are. This then leads to Sassy talking about setting up an assembly line so she doesn't have to, do this anymore. And Shazam! We'll have the same dress. Everything will be cool. Awesome. Naturally, Rarity is rather not fond of that. This is when she flat out mentions, I can't be part of another failed boutique. I wrote a note in my things here. I bet she worked in H&R. She's apparently a very experienced manager, and yet she has apparently failed multiple times before. And yet she still got hired by Rarity, who's the type to do her homework. And by God, isn't that how it works in real life? For those of you who haven't heard this story, and I know I've told this like 70 times, so please forgive me. The manager who moved in to become our third highest tier manager at the company I used to work at, he was fired from H&R Block for incompetence. He was also an idiot. He was not a good manager at any level. He was the guy who decided he would read something about something in a magazine and implement it because he read about it in a magazine without any actual work or thought or implementation or anything. Just do that. That's the kind of boss he was. So, I bring this up because he was hired because he came well received. And this is how managers work in general. It doesn't matter that he got fired for incompetence. What matters is that he had 6 years or whatever of management experience at H&R Block. Hey, that's all that mattered. I bring this up because that's what I was thinking of when it comes to Sassy. Anyways, moving on. So she decides to go ahead and start doing her own thing. There's the goth and bright ponies. Super adorable. We also see that Glasses pony from Princess Spike, which is very cute. And, well, here's what I'm going to get to my big point. What's more important? Success? We've put in 100 new orders! Or being able to add to the substance of the universe? Now, I'm not going to give an answer here, because that's not my job. This is your question for you to decide for yourself, just as Rarity does. Rarity decides that she wants to add to the substance of the universe. That is something that she wants to do. She does not want success. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It is her choice. It's why so many people... This is actually an incredibly complex topic, and I'm going to try and break it down a little bit. So many people try to do what they love and make it a thing, and then invariably end up running into the wall of having to be an assembly line because everyone wants the same thing that they already know. And that makes sense, actually. Let's say, for example, that there's a person who writes jazz music, and it's good jazz music, and you love it. But they don't want to make jazz music anymore. They want to make rock music, okay? And that's what they want to do. So what does that person do? Do they keep making jazz music and keep making money? Or do they try to make rock music and completely alienate their audience? You see why this is an interesting paradox and a problem that, in my opinion, has no actual solution. We can't have everyone be an assembly line, and we can't have everyone actually be purely creative, because both extremes are going to cause problems. There is also a possibility of drifting between the two. If you're wondering what that's like, all you have to do is look at me. No, I'm serious. Some of you probably haven't even noticed that my show has drifted in content substantially over the last 9 years. Very much on purpose. Very slowly, carefully guiding it into a direction that I feel is more interesting for me to keep myself creatively engaged, streaming, reviewing. and in a manner to ensure that I would be able to continue to have a larger audience and make money and be solvent when I inevitably walked away from the things that were comfortable because I simply ran out of topics. I don't really do game ruminations anymore. I don't really have much to talk about except for the Star Trek stuff, and that's a well that will eventually run dry. And you'll notice that almost the entirety of the focus that I do nowadays is on reviewing, discussing and analyzing, but still actually giving the pluses and the minuses, because that's more creatively interesting to me. Now, I try to... You notice how I did a segue there, a kind of a drift in between that, because I do still analyze, I do still ruminate, I do still ask for your guys' opinions. So it's not like I have completely changed my show. Do you get my point? Most people don't do that. Most people don't think to do that. I'm not bragging. It's just most people, it doesn't occur to them to even try. Most people think, well, maybe I'll get successful and do it, or, well, maybe I won't be successful and who cares? And then there's a whole lot of people who will try to be creative and flop and basically destroy their credibility and or fan base in the process. That happens more often in music circles than anywhere else. Look at how many bands have broken up over things like this, or individual singers, for example. This is also why several people would prefer to be independently wealthy, including me, I might add. If I was able to diverge my financial side of existence from my creative side of existence, I would not do the same kind of work that I do now, because I wouldn't have to. Right? And I'm sure that's true for everyone. So that's not exactly unique to me. There's also idiots, I should mention. There's some people who are just idiots who are creative, make tons of money from it, and then blow it on stupid things. Hollywood, excuse me. There's people who aren't idiots in Hollywood, too. There are plenty of actors and actresses who made their money past tense, and now they're just acting because they enjoy acting, right? Keanu Reeves is actually a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That man has been acting because he wants to, because that is his creative outlet. And he's been doing that for decades at this point. Frankly, yes, she could, Lune Ruth. Although that would probably be brand damaging at that point because she would be so associated with a single product. And obviously she was philosophically opposed to that. Again, she wanted to be on the creative side of things. But she could have done that, I think, absolutely. She just didn't. And yeah, Mike Tyson and MC Hammer are two great examples of people just burning money. Oh my gosh, let's not get into that. Thankfully, Equestria is better than real life, because Rarity decides to say, screw it, I'm going to give up on success and focus on creativity. She would rather add to the substance of the universe than make money. And because Equestria is better than real life, she gets to do both. Which is kind of cool. This is when we find out about the franchise thing. You'll also notice this is actually some brilliant storytelling in its own right. Because now we have a new hook. What do you mean, Weods? I'm sorry. I don't understand that statement. I'm probably just misreading it. We have a new hook, a new story thread, right? Because we have a new location, a new regular location in a new place, which has new story ideas. We've got her franchising. Now we understand. Imperial Star Destroyer. I'm just making fun. Because now she's branching out, and so she has a successful business, which she has to manage. That can have story threads. Another successful business, excuse me, which has additional story threads. And if they want to, they could move the camera periodically. Gotcha, Weouts. That makes sense. No, I actually agree with you completely. Funnily enough, I think that's probably the direction she's going in. I don't say that with certainty, because I don't think we really discuss it in future episodes, but I could be wrong. And yes, we will, spoilers, spoilers, we will have expansion in the future. In another excellent episode. I really like Rarity episodes. Go figure. And not just because I, associate with her, or however you want to think of that. And then the episode ends on a wah-wah. So, that's going to add to the wah-wah counter. Do you have any princess dress? No! Yeah, that's a pretty definitive wah-wah right there. Boop. I guess that's it. I guess that's everything I had to share. Like, I could keep talking about the creativity versus success topic a long time. I could keep going on for that for a ways. I'm not going to. I'm not going to waste your time with it. It's just, it's a fascinating topic. Because it's such a fascinating paradox. What I think was the friendship Aesop? Okay, so I think the actual Aesop is non-existent. Now, having stated that way, I think the intended Aesop was that they wanted to have an Aesop about you need to be, you need to be firm in your beliefs, you need to stay true to yourself, generic yada yada, that kind of a thing. The reason I differentiate those two is because I'm not sure that really works in practice, and it's actually kind of simplistic is the way I want to phrase that. Because that's not quite what was happening here. As we've been talking about here, Rarity was both correct and incorrect because of the fact that this is not a right or wrong situation, right? This is just a situation in which you have to make a choice. Rarity was unhappy. Okay, that makes sense. But there were other methods by which she could have fixed that without deciding to pull the plug and then lucking into the fact that she exists in a good world that allows her to be herself and still be successful, right? There are other methods here. I mean, we odds pointed one out just a few minutes ago, right? So, that's why I think the intended Aesop, it just isn't there, really. I think it's just a good episode. What do I think of Sassy overall? Like I said, I like Sassy. She's an interesting example of an antagonist who is in no way villainous. Because she is the antagonist of this episode, but there is no malevolence there. There's no malice, there's no ill intent. There's a bit of fear, a bit of desperation, but otherwise she's just trying to do the best she can. It's good stuff. I like it. By the way, next episode is Rarity Investigates. Yay! And then Made in Manhattan? Is that? Oh, no, that's not the one. That's not the one. Where does she open up the one in Manhattan? Let's see. Earthbreaker, Scaremaster. What about Discord? The Hoopfields. Gotta say it right. And the main attraction. Oh, I remember that one. Oh, season 7 is apparently. Gotcha. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave the fat pony thing aside there. Then. Apparently, Imperial Star Destroyer is two. I mean, Imperial Star Destroyers are really long, so he's kind of stretched out across 2 seasons. That makes perfect sense. Where on earth is Rarity San Diego? I'm looking forward to that one. I'm gonna go ahead and chop this off. I have some work to do. But I hope you've enjoyed. Supposedly, by all accounts, I should double check like right now. So the last time I said this, I was then informed that I was wrong. So hang on, let me hop onto Discord right now. But I'm pretty sure we are going to have the Star Trek V rewrite tonight. Okay, I have nothing contradicting that. So as of now, I'm going to assume we are going to have the Star Trek V rewrite. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do hope at least some of you guys are here. Otherwise... no. That's going to be the end of Season 5, Savacom. We'll get there. We'll get there. So, see you guys.